Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Acceptance and Commitment Therapy for Dummies by Freddie Jackson Brown and Duncan Gillard. Foreword by Stephen C. Hayes, Ph.D. Narrated by Jonathan Cowley. Publisher's note. In this audio edition, you will hear references to figures and tables present in the print and ebook formats of the book. Limit of liability, disclaimer of warranty. The contents of this work are intended to further general scientific research, understanding, and discussion only, and are not intended and should not be relied upon as recommending or promoting a specific method, diagnosis, or treatment by physicians for any particular patient. The publisher and the author make no representations or warranties with respect to the accuracy or completeness of the contents of this work, and specifically disclaim all warranties, including without limitation any implied warranties of fitness for a particular purpose. In view of ongoing research, equipment modifications, changes in governmental regulations, and the constant flow of information, the listener is urged to review and evaluate the information provided in the package insert or instructions for each medicine, equipment, or device for, among other things, any changes in the instructions or indication of usage, and for added warnings and precautions. Listeners should consult with a specialist where appropriate. Neither the publisher nor the author shall be liable for any damages arising herefrom. Foreword. Successful businesses across the world apply this simple principle. Focus more on the few things that do a lot, rather than the many things that do a little. This is such a book. After a handful of 2 or short chapters, this book bangs through a pretty incredible list of important topics: love, anxiety, depression, anger, pain, addiction, work, and even psychosis. And every one of those later chapters shows how psychological flexibility applies. Is that even possible? It turns out that it is. ACT is about the few core things in psychology that make an important difference in lots and lots of different areas. Last time I counted, there were over 125 controlled studies, and hundreds more of lesser kinds, showing that the small set of skills that ACT targets makes a difference virtually everywhere that human minds go. This is an ACT for Dummies book, but you could also call it an ACT for when you are too smart for your own good book. Minds do not know when to stop. They are figuring it all out, even when what they need to do is just be quiet and let people learn new ways of being and doing. There is a conflict between how your analytical mind works and how learning by direct experience works. Our analytical minds are great for doing taxes, but they are awful at getting over past hurts. Your minds are great in the role of a tool and lousy when put in the role of being the boss or dictator. What ACT does is to teach you how to put your mind on a leash, so you can use it when you want, rather than it using you when it wants. This book will help. There is nothing dumb about that. Stephen C. Hayes, Ph.D., Foundation Professor of Psychology, University of Nevada, co-developer of ACT. Introduction. Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, said as one word, ACT, is an evidence-based psychological intervention that uses acceptance and mindfulness techniques alongside behavior change strategies to help you live life according to what really matters to you. Based on recent breakthroughs in understanding how language works, ACT offers a genuinely original perspective on the human condition and the challenge everyone faces in living a life with meaning and purpose. ACT is all about doing the things that really matter to you and not letting your mind get in the way. Often, without you realizing it, your mind what goes on in your head, can push you around and interfere with your daily life. You're so connected with your thoughts that you don't always notice what they do and, importantly, what they stop you doing. But your mind is really just a tool, and, like all tools, is good at solving certain problems and pretty hopeless at addressing others. ACT shows you how to use your mind for what it's good at, and then to set it aside when your thoughts are less helpful. To help you get on with the life you want to be living, ACT uses a range of exercises to enable you to become more open, aware, and active. Openness involves stepping forward into life and accepting all that comes with it. Awareness means increasing your connection with the world around you rather than living in your head. Being active is about doing the things that truly matter to you. This is an exciting time for ACT. Every month, new research articles and books explore how it can be applied in different settings and to a host of human problems. In fact, so many new applications are being developed that there's insufficient space in this book to cover them all. Rather, we provide a general introduction to ACT with the aim of helping you understand the central principles, ideas, and practices that underpin the model. Contrary to popular belief, doing the things that really matter to you can be quite difficult. And the reason for that, according to ACT, is human language. While language enables you to do amazing things, it also allows you to ruminate on the past and worry about the future. And when you become overly entangled in your thoughts, you stop living the life you want to be living, and instead your life is dictated by your anger, fears, worries, and doubts. This insight isn't particularly new, but where ACT differs to other approaches is in how it responds to these events. Rather than tackling this negativity head-on, ACT shows you new ways to relate to your thoughts, feelings, and emotions so that they have less impact on your day-to-day life. About this book. If you want to know more about ACT and how to apply it to your own life, then this book's for you. In broad terms, we describe how the ACT model builds your psychological flexibility by helping you become more open, aware, and active. Explain the scientific processes and concepts upon which ACT is based and how these relate to your everyday life. Provide exercises and activities to help you understand ACT and create positive change in your life. Offer an explanation of the new theory of language, relational frame theory (RFT), which underpins ACT. Relate ACT to real-life challenges, such as weight problems and anger management, as well as more complex mental health difficulties like anxiety and depression. Developing new ways to relate to your own thoughts, feelings, and memories, collectively, your mind, takes practice and can't be achieved through the understanding that results from listening alone. Understanding how to relate to your thoughts differently isn't enough. You actually need to practice the necessary skills directly to be able to do it. It's rather like learning to swim. No amount of reading or knowledge about swimming will ever be a substitute for getting into the water and learning how to swim directly. The exercises in this book aim to help you learn to swim in your mental world. While these experiential exercises aren't always easy to do, they're central to ACT, and we recommend that you try as many as possible. While listening to the whole book will give you the fullest picture of what ACT involves, it's not necessary for it to be useful to you. It's better to think of this book as a general reference guide about ACT rather than a manual that needs to be listened to sequentially. That said, we do recommend that you listen to the chapters in Part 1 sequentially because we wrote it that way to take you through the key features of the ACT model. Listening to those chapters in the order in which they're written, while not absolutely necessary, enables you to find out about ACT in a systematic way without any gaps. The chapters in the rest of the book can be listened to in whatever order you fancy. Of course, the downside of ensuring that each chapter has enough information in it to make sense on its own is that some repetition of ideas exists. We've endeavored to keep this to a minimum, but you will note some reoccurrence of key points. On the upside, it means you'll have multiple opportunities to make sense of the core principles, ideas, and exercises. Foolish assumptions. We've assumed some things about you and why you're listening to this book. You have little or no prior knowledge about ACT or the ideas that underpin it. You're a layperson who wants to know more about how ACT works and how to apply the ideas to your own life, or you're a professional therapist who wants to broaden your knowledge. You're motivated to try all the exercises because you understand that to benefit from ACT, you have to directly engage with it. Finally, a comment on the technical language we use from time to time. While we try to avoid being overly technical, sometimes therapy speak is necessary because an understanding of the subject matter isn't fully possible without it. When you come across technical terms and explanations, we advise you to stick with them, but not to worry about understanding them all in one go. It's often better to listen to the sections a couple of times to get the general picture, and thus not get bogged down and frustrated. Because the chapters often repeat or build on ACT concepts, you gradually come to understand the technical details. Icons used in this book. For Dummies books use icons to alert you to important details in the text. We use the following. Jargon alert. We use this icon to signal a new term you may not have encountered before, or at least not in the way we use it. Remember. This icon draws your attention to a key point or something that's useful to bear in mind for the future. Tip. This icon highlights practical advice and guidance that can help you understand how to apply an ACT principle or work through an exercise. Try this. This icon points out practical exercises and activities. Beyond the book. In addition to the material in the print or ebook you're listening to right now, this product also comes with some Access Anywhere goodies on the web. Check out the free cheat sheet at www.dummies.com/cheat-sheet/acceptance and commitment therapy for helpful tips and pointers to help you understand ACT and how to apply it to your life. You can also find extra articles at www.dummies.com/extras/acceptance and commitment therapy. Where to go from here? A good place to start is Chapter 1. It sets out some of the basic ideas that we expand on in more detail in subsequent chapters. After that, you can listen to the rest of the chapters in Part 1 as we recommend, or check out the contents and jump into whichever chapter you feel is relevant to you at the time. Part 1. Getting started with acceptance and commitment therapy. Getting started with ACT. Web extras. Find more about ACT and many other topics at www.dummies.com. In this part, discover the basic ACT model and how it applies to your life. Learn more about the nature and origins of human suffering from an ACT perspective. Explore how to use ACT techniques to engage in a fuller and more meaningful life. Use mindfulness to enhance your well-being. Chapter 1. Introducing ACT. In this chapter, recognizing what matters to you, working on your psychological flexibility, taking an active approach to your own life. Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, ACT, is a genuinely new way of understanding the human condition. Informed by the scientific understanding of language, it offers a radically different perspective on human cognition and emotion and why human beings can struggle to be happy. ACT is an evidence-based cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, that uses acceptance and mindfulness techniques alongside behavior change strategies to help you live in line with what really matters to you. While the T in ACT stands for therapy, ACT goes beyond that. It provides a framework for a deeper understanding of what it is to be human and, more specifically, how to live your life with purpose, openness, vitality, and fun. ACT has never been needed more. In spite of being materially wealthy, many people in Western societies struggle to find a sense of meaning, happiness, and fulfillment in their everyday lives. Psychological distress and mental health problems result. ACT was developed and is continuing to be developed in response to these challenges. This chapter explains how your linguistic ability to evaluate parts of your own experience as negative, and therefore something to be avoided, can get in the way of doing the things that matter to you. ACT shows you how to respond more flexibly to your experiences so that, rather than battling against yourself, you can live in line with what truly matters to you. Doing what matters. Put simply, ACT aims to help people identify their values and then to live consistently and openly with them. This is important because when you live in line with your values, you're more likely to feel that your life has meaning and direction. And conversely, when you don't do what matters, you can feel frustrated, unfulfilled, and dissatisfied, even anxious and depressed. You may think that doing the things you feel are important would be pretty easy. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Human beings are well practiced at delaying, avoiding, stopping, or simply not starting things that really matter to them. For example, even though the following things may be important to you, you may not contact family or friends on a regular basis, give up on diets, abandon exercise programs, remain in the same job even though you're fed up with it, avoid asking people on dates, not clean the house. Take a moment to think about your own life. When did you last avoid, delay, or stop doing something that really mattered to you? You can probably think of numerous examples. It's a curious fact that doing what matters to you isn't always easy or straightforward. But why is this? According to ACT, experiential avoidance is the answer. Jargon alert. Experiential avoidance means being unwilling to experience unwanted thoughts, feelings, or bodily sensations and engaging in counterproductive behavior to avoid them. Figure 1-1 shows how human beings, like all animals, generally approach things that lead to positive experiences and avoid those that lead to negative ones. Behaving in this way makes complete sense in evolutionary terms because it means you're more likely to avoid dangerous situations and embrace people and experiences that are good for you. Experiential avoidance and rejection. Recent research into the relationship between experiential avoidance and interpersonal problems found that the sample of 159 university students demonstrated a strong association between experiential avoidance and social traits such as coldness, social evasion, and hostility. The researchers concluded that, in an effort to hide their anxiety, individuals behaved in cold and impersonal ways or attempted to avoid social interactions altogether. In effect, their fear of rejection encouraged them to act in ways that increased the likelihood of rejection. In terms of relationships, U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt appears to have been correct in his assertion that, The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. For human beings, however, the situation is more complex. Because language enables people to evaluate their thoughts and feelings as good or bad, it's easy for people to move towards or away from their own experiences, even when doing so isn't in their best interests. If you evaluate part of your experience as bad, you'll be inclined to stop doing the things that led to it, even if doing so also stops you doing what you really want. Consider walking up a mountain. Before you start out, you may have doubts about whether you can do it, and during the hike, you'll inevitably experience some physical discomfort as you go higher. If you're not prepared to experience these negative thoughts and feelings, you won't experience what it's like to walk in the mountains. Figure 1-2 shows this situation pictorially. Unwillingness to experience negative thoughts and feelings causes you to turn around and move away from the things that matter to you. While doing so may solve the immediate problem, you reduce the impact of negative thoughts and feelings. Unfortunately, it also creates another problem. You're now no longer moving in a valued life direction. Experiential avoidance is occurring. Turning the tables on avoidance. Nick, a university lecturer and ACT researcher, has turned experiential avoidance on its head. He realized that avoidance was getting in the way of his ability to learn new skills, meet new people, and connect with life. And because meeting people and learning new skills were important to him, he took a somewhat radical step. Now, every time he notices any resistance to doing something, rather than letting this feeling dictate his actions, he automatically steps forward and does it. This approach doesn't always make life easy for him, but by refusing to allow his life to be dominated by avoidance, he's behaving in ways that are consistent with his values of openness, learning, exploration, and fun. And he sleeps all the better for it. As well as interfering with everyday life, experiential avoidance can be a major contributor to mental health problems. Avoiding daily doubts, reservations, or sources of emotional discomfort is one thing, but some people who experience highly disturbing thoughts and memories go to even greater extremes in order to evade them, such as disassociation or drug and alcohol misuse. When this happens, their solution becomes their problem. Increasing your psychological flexibility. You can counteract your inclination to avoid parts of your own experience by becoming more psychologically flexible. Jargon alert. Psychological flexibility is your ability to be open to all your experiences, good and bad, while simultaneously doing the things that are consistent with your values. With a strong sense of psychological flexibility, negative thoughts and feelings are no longer barriers to doing the things that you want to be doing. ACT focuses on 6 core processes associated with psychological flexibility. Although they're set out as distinct processes, lots of overlap exists between them. And while they can be applied individually, ACT is really about all 6 processes functioning together as one. Remember, the 6 core processes are values, deciding what you want your life to be about and the ongoing actions that take your life in those directions. Committed action, doing those things that bring your values to life. Acceptance, noticing, accepting and embracing all your experiences, especially the unwanted or negative ones. Diffusion, noticing your thoughts and thinking processes without being inside them or trying to alter or control them. Contact with the present moment, being fully aware of your experiences as they're occurring here and now. Self as context, getting in touch with your deep sense of self, the you who sits just behind your eyes, who observes and experiences, and yet is distinct from your own thoughts, feelings, and memories. We return to these 6 core processes in Chapter 3 so that you can really understand how they work and link together. Here, it's important to understand that ACT aims to enhance your psychological flexibility so that you can get on with doing what matters. Living a life that's true to your values. Remember, in ACT, the things you really care about, deep down inside, and want your life to stand for are called your values. They're not specific items or goals you can hold or achieve. Rather, they're statements that reflect how you want to behave in life on an ongoing basis. For example, being a loving partner, being healthy, or reducing my impact on the environment are values as they describe how you want to behave towards other people, yourself, or the world in general. You can think of values as the directions you want your life to be going in as they guide your behavior to reflect what's important for you. Remember, even though being true to your values leads to a greater sense of purpose and contentment in life, doing so isn't always easy. It can involve doing things that you may not actually want to do at that particular moment. For example, communicating calmly with your children when you're angry, or making a cup of tea for your partner when you feel upset with him. Doing these things in the service of your values of being a good parent and a loving partner means that you're being true to what you hold most dear. Accepting life. Many traditional therapeutic approaches focus on changing or altering unwanted or troublesome thoughts and feelings. ACT is different in that it works to change how you relate to these events rather than to change them directly. The aim is to become more open to and accepting of your thoughts and feelings instead of battling against them. ACT takes this approach because research carried out over the last 20 years or so indicates that people have much less control over their thoughts and feelings than they often think they do. For example, while you can choose to think about different things, such as a red car or a polar bear, you can't sustain these thoughts for anything other than short periods before your attention moves on to something else. And if you try your best not to think about something, then the opposite happens and you end up thinking about it all the more. These findings, and what does your own experience tell you, mean that your efforts to control, minimize, or avoid your thoughts can only ever have marginal success. Chapters 7 and 11 explain in more detail how your thoughts work. A similar situation exists with your emotions. What you feel depends on what's happened to you, and this means that you can't change how you feel at any one point in time without first changing your past. Of course, that's impossible, and so attempts to manage or change your feelings in the present won't be successful. The aim of ACT is to help people live open and fulfilling lives, which is difficult to do if they're spending lots of time trying to change, control, or avoid things that can't be easily changed, controlled, or avoided. For this reason, acceptance is so important. When faced with things you can't change, your best option is usually to accept them. This challenge is nicely summed up by Reinhold Niebuhr's Serenity Prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Acceptance provides an alternative to experiential avoidance as a way to engage with life. In practicing acceptance, you create the space to do the things that really matter to you rather than waste your time and energy on trying to control the uncontrollable. This doesn't mean that everything you do will be successful. Some things you do will work out and others won't, but at least you're now doing the things that are important to you rather than trying to control or avoid the things you don't like. At the end of each day, you can rest your head on the pillow and fall asleep knowing you've lived according to your values. And something else happens when you practice acceptance. Life becomes less scary and less focused on the negatives. It transpires that your unpleasant thoughts
Sample complete. Ready to continue?